Hey there and welcome back to Best Practice TV. In this episode, what we're talking about is what's our plan, how we're running our strategy for the next 12 months. Stay tuned. So what I thought I'd cover for you today is just give you a quick example here on the whiteboard of how we're running Best Practice and how we're developing our strategic plan for the next 12 months. I thought there'd be some value for you guys to maybe copy what we're doing. And if you want to quote Picasso, good artists copy, great artists steal. So if you want to steal this from me, it's definitely what it's for. So a little bit of how-to. So the first thing I'm just going to go through is the calendar. So we've got a couple of activities coming up in the next 5 or 6 weeks, which is really exciting. The first one is our exec strategy, and that's a 2-day event. And then the second thing that we're doing is our staff conference. Now, we get everybody together from our staff's perspective twice a year. And our exec strategy day, which is a 2-day workshop, is once. Then we look at each quarter and we look at the results of each quarter. So the third thing we're doing is a quarterly. And then we set 90-day plans. So we divide the year into 4 parts and we set our 90-day plan. So what that looks like is our strategy. This is our exec. Then we go into our staff conference. And the other thing that's happening, obviously, as part of this exercise is Q1. Then we go Q2. And then we go into Q3. And then back to our annual. Now, we've used a couple of different systems to run this over the years, but what's happened is that we've sort of, I guess, with all of the different things that we've used and the different inputs and different consultants that have helped us over the years, we've come up with this successful formula. So part of the success of Best Practice is constantly looking at this quarterly cycle and just remaining focused. So we never focus more than 90 days ahead. We do, if there's a project that's maybe going to run for 6 months or for 12 months, we say that's fine, it can run for 12 months, but we break it into quarterly components, which is really important to just stay focused on each sort of milestone, and it gives us that deadline to achieve a particular milestone. So our CRM, for example, CRM's been an ongoing project. We're now coming to our 4th CRM in the history of the business. Keep outgrowing what we build, and so, and there's some criticisms and challenges. Why didn't we think about it? Well, it is what it is, unfortunately. So the criticism of ourselves is we didn't think big enough when we went into the first CRM or the second CRM or the third CRM. So what we're looking at is, and it's in process at the moment, the first quarter. So for Q2 this year, we spec'd the CRM. Q3, we're building, and then Q4, we're ready to roll out. So in Q1 next year, we'll be doing the rollout, if that makes sense. So that's a long project, and we've been working on quarterly stages of that particular project. So that's basically how Best Practice runs from a strategic planning perspective. Now, we've obviously got a couple of significant events. Out of our staff, now our staff are getting together twice. We have our 1-day conference, and then we have, obviously one thing happens here in summertime here in Australia is we have our festive season. So our staff process then comes around to is our Christmas party. And part of our Christmas party is it's just this twice yearly catch up because we've got lots of staff all over the country. So that's the sort of cycle with the bulk of our people, but then sitting on top of that is our executive cycle. Now, in some of the teams, they have either weekly or monthly catch-ups and updates and their own projects. So our operations team, for example, meet monthly. Our marketing team meet weekly. So there's a couple of things there that, yes, there's a lot of meetings, but we try to just systemize it so it's not ad hoc and then just keep falling back into the routine and the habits. And that's how you just get small incremental amounts of improvement. So now that's obviously our strategic cycle. Now the 4th thing that you might have heard me talk about is our weekly exec. So I guess that forms the foundation. There's a weekly exec. Our operations team I just mentioned meet monthly. Our marketing team meet weekly, and then I meet with our finance manager a couple of times a week just to catch up on what the numbers are doing and you know that things aren't out of control. But we try and sit on a systemised behavioural process-based approach and stay within those cycles. So that's really the skeleton, if you like, of the strategic planning and strategic management process here at Best Practice. Now that spins off a couple of things. There's a couple of inputs to these processes and a couple of outputs. So some of the inputs over here, and if you're talking about the process model with ISO 9001 or any of the standards, and this is how your quality management system ties into your executive and business planning system, is some of the inputs here are obviously the first thing is our data. So these are all of our numbers, and I talk a lot about our 30 stats. Those stats are reported weekly in the exec and then reviewed quarterly to look at how we're tracking against our targets. Now, when you look at ISO 9001, we don't use all of the language with our quality management system, but we talk about targets, objectives and targets. So ISO 9001 talks about management objectives and targets. We've got 30 statistics, management objectives and targets, and they're part of our business plan. So that's how your business plan talks to your quality management system. Some of the other inputs are obviously issues, or if you use a quality management system, you might call them non-conformances or opportunities for improvement. So OFIs, opportunity for improvement, or NCR. So if you're a quality manager watching this, we feed those things into our executive planning process. And I think that's very high level. That's a summary of how we're tracking any of the data. There's finance stuff in here, there's quality stuff in here, there's safety, there's environment. We're looking, obviously, checking against our targets and our issues. And then what we then talk about is our outputs. So the first thing in terms of outputs, and I'll just put it as a 4 so we're following, is any resource needs. So that might be training, it might be process improvement, it might be budgets, and then we might talk about new plans, for example. So it's really sort of an inputs and outputs. Now we call this in ISO, in any of the ISO standards, what do we call all of this? That's our business planning and leadership, and this is our management review. So, sorry it's a bit messy and it's just a quick presentation, but I just wanted to talk to you about how we run Best Practice, you know, taking our own medicine, if you like, in terms of the ISO standards. So that's sort of the strategic process. Now there's a couple of things that support both of these that I think are really important for you guys. The first thing, obviously, is we run a risk register. And that sort of summarises the issues and risks, and we do that as part of this executive session. So we run a risk workshop. So if you talked about this agenda over here, we've got a risk register. We have a standard. So there is really critical objectives and outcomes for each of these meetings that are documented. We have a risk register, standard agenda. We have rules or guidelines. So we have meeting, and I've talked a bit on our YouTube channel about meetings and our guidelines, but this particular thing here with regards to meeting guidelines, I'm absolutely critical and being razor sharp on starting a meeting on time. So for our Monday executive meeting for this one, it's at 4 o'clock every Monday. We've just recently moved the time. We're sitting in this room right here at 3:50 on a Monday afternoon, ready to start bang on 4 o'clock, and the meeting has to be finished at 5:30 sharp. And it's absolutely mandatory. There's no waffling on, there's no carry on. It's short, it's sharp, it's concise, it's well practiced. It's taken us a long time to get to that point, but the sooner you can get to just focusing on start sharp, finish sharp, then everybody's going to be right. I know that meeting's going to start on time. I know the meeting's going to finish on time. They'll be more excited and more motivated to go to those meetings, which is really exciting. So our standard agenda, our meeting guidelines. Number 4 is obviously our reporting. So these are the things that sort of support what's happening in our reporting framework. So the statistic, there's all the blank graph templates that we use to actually manage that. So what that's basically saying is, you know, is our graphs. So you know, if you were developing things to run your company, and if you, whether you're starting and you're an entrepreneur, or whether you've got a system, you know, management system that we certified, so your client watching this, you know, it's really important to be saying, okay, well, I need a risk register, I need a standard agenda for each of the meetings I'm going to have, meeting guidelines, and the meeting guidelines about starting and stopping and finishing on time and what you're going to cover, move really quickly through the agenda. The agendas are, you know, the meeting guidelines, that's all standard stuff. So you just roll it out so people practice, 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 and perfect practice makes perfect. And then our reporting graphs. So I think what I wanted to show you here today was just how we sort of frame up best practice. And the last thing is our training plan. So, you know, all this spills out into other stuff, personal development plans for people, ties into training. We don't really have here at Best Practice a big fat manual. You know, the quality manuals are becoming a thing of the past. We run Dropbox, and there's the process maps and those sorts of things that people need to understand what their processes are in Dropbox. But we find that it's more about here Best Practice about behaviour rather than relying on lots and lots of documents and polished up procedures. So what I'm basically saying, if you want to run your management system, don't go and write lots of documents, just start these processes and keep these artifacts of your history. So the risk register being updated, the standard agenda, the meeting guidelines, the reporting graphs, and then the training plan, and obviously any of these meetings you'll document minutes. So these are the artifacts that we're going to start capturing. So evidence, artifacts, whatever you might do. So that's the strategic planning at Best Practice. Our executive annual meeting is coming up in the middle of June to plan the next financial year, where we'll finish our budgets and settle our targets. Our staff conference is at the end of June, and then we just roll into the rest of the year. We'll catch up with all of the staff again at Christmas. They'll have their little, you know, the staff have their little sort of punctuated meetings through the process of the year. And that feeds out into the executive, so that would be the feedback. You know, these meetings are feeding out into the executive, and that's how our leadership commitment is running. And you know, this is so escalation of issues into the executive. So quite a cool process. It's really lean, and it's why we're succeeding. So I hope you can copy it, steal this. If you're watching this video, rewind it a little bit, screenshot, and it's excellent. If you want more of this great content, jump onto our website and drop all your details in and subscribe to our newsletter. So we've got weekly emails going out to you guys. So if you're not on our email list, get on the email list, because we do video of the week. We share some of the stuff from our YouTube channel. So on our YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button. So if you haven't got a Gmail account, grab yourself a Gmail account. So many benefits for using the Google products, particularly YouTube. So you'll get your subscription opportunity. So get your Gmail, free Gmail email, set yourself up, then you can click the subscribe button on our YouTube channel, and you'll see me next time on Best Practice TV. Bye for now.